Hey guys, I hope you can hear me well. We are going to be working on an iPhone 11 Pro Max FX5IC transfer. So again, some of the tools you'll need are hot air station. I use the Quick 861W DW. You're gonna need a soldering iron. I use the Hackle 951 or the 203. Either one works perfect. The biggest tip you can find for it, that always helps. You're also gonna need flux, tweezers, solder paste, alcohol, maybe some canned air, and oh, of course, a stencil, one of these guys. That's one that's all linked in the description in the video if you need it. Uh, with, with all that said, oh, and obviously an IC transfer screen to transfer the IC, and you can get those from in your gadgets. So, with that being said, let's get started on this video. So, first thing you want to do is you want to put it in a board holder or something of some sort. I use the one that, that little holder, the phone holder for the backglass ICs or backglass repairs. That gives me plenty of leverage for this, so I prefer to use that. You're going to need a scalpel blade, and you can get those from Injured Gadgets, one of these guys. And what you want to do is we need this because we're going to be removing this underfill or glue around the IC to fray it. So you want to first grab your hot air station and you want to use channel 1, and you hope that channel 1 is set at like the 200 range. On my station I have it set at 215 with 100, but whatever you have that station set up, that should be fine. What you're going to do is you're going to heat it up. You're going to gently scrape off the glue or underfill from the sides. Now this screen has no working image, so it's not going to matter how rough you are with it, because at the end of the day it doesn't work anyway, so who cares. I personally like to do this process only on screens with damaged LCD or OLED, and the reason for that is because you do not get recycling credit on those. So no sense in, you know, wasting the IC for the customer. Make them a little bit happier, right? And just call it a day. Okay. It's almost there in that corner. Okay, that should be good enough. Put that to the side. Scrape a little bit more, I think. Sorry, my eyepiece was a little fussy, so couldn't quite see what I was doing. There we go. Yeah, that's separating a little bit. There we go. There we go. Okay, now we're gonna grab any sort of tweezers is fine. And you're gonna set your station to channel 2, which I have mine set at the 365 range. Anything over 300 should be fine. You just want to blast that with hot air and kind of do like a little bit pulling motion. There we go, and the IC came off. I'm going to move this to the side because we don't need it anymore. And then what we're going to do, I'll flip the sucker over. Grab this guy. I'm going to grab some solder paste. You can use 138 or 183, doesn't matter. There we go, all fixed. Fix my scope too. There we go, should be good. Okay, so you're gonna put some solder paste on this. And then you're gonna grab some flux. You're gonna put some flux on it. You can use Amtech 559 for your flux. That's what I recommend. I know some of you guys like to go cheap and use stuff like Quick Chip or whatever it is. I prefer Amtech. Use whatever you want as long as you are able to get the job done successfully. For those of you concerned about the smoke, you can turn on a fume extractor or wear a mask. And you see how I'm doing almost like a little bit of a scraping motion? It's kind of what you're going for. You don't want to scrape too hard. You want to have like a light touch to it because you don't want to accidentally rip those pads or whatever from the surface of the AC. So you want to be gentle with it. And that's why I use my bigger tip, because it requires less force, because it has more heat transfer, so it melts that underfill a lot faster. I'm going to clean the tip. I'll put a little bit more flux. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Okay, that's the first pass I always do. Make sure most of the underfill is off. Now we're going to clean it up a bit. Grab your alcohol, a little piece of paper towel, toothbrush or whatever. You're going to clean that up. Try and get some of that good stuff off. And the chip. gonna go all clean. Dry that off. Let's take this cloth and do one pass. Then always do a second pass, just to make sure that all the balls are tinned or pads or whatever. There you go. A little bit of flux. A little bit of flux. Or a lot, whatever you want to use. Don't be cheap with the flux. You want to make sure all the balls, they have a little bit on them. There you go. And that should be good enough. Again, we're going to clean it. Want to make sure the pads are clean so the solder sticks when we're going to reball it. That's not the best, but it'll do. So now, what I always like to do is I'll put it on a paper towel, like so. Then you're gonna grab your stencil, and this stencil you can buy from Indra Gadgets or Mobile Centrics, whichever your preferred vendor is. And links are in the description as always. And you want to line it up as best as possible. There we go. So as good as we're gonna get this one. And grab some solder paste, and you want to kind of spread it on the stencil and make sure all the holes have some. Sure they all have some. Clean that up a bit. Then I personally like to use a bigger set of tweezers to hold down the stencil. Still on channel 2, what I do is I drop my temperature from the 360 range to like the 320, 330 range. And I start from far away. Usually put my hotter handle right around where my microscope light is. And I heat it up. You want the stencil to heat up evenly. Then you want to start coming in a little bit closer. And then you'll see them kind of bubble up. And then they'll form. You want to, after they'll form, you want to heat up a little bit more so that it doesn't look as wet. You want it like as dry as possible. That should be good enough. You're gonna pull, you're gonna count to 3, 1, 2, 3. You're gonna lift the stencil, you're gonna poke it in the little holes, like so. Then that'll drop eventually. There we go, it dropped. Now what you wanna do is you wanna put some more flux on it. And you're gonna hit it one more time with a hot air. You want those balls to be equal, even, and shiny. So just in case any of them got deformed, then the pokey uh, of the stencil, they will reform and even out with the rest of them. There we go. That should be good. You see how they all look like they have balls? And if you were to try and put it to the side, they all look even, or like the balls look like they belong or whatever, or like they're you want them to be even as possible because you don't want this anything to like, you want them all to touch. Each one has a purpose. So you wait for them to cool down a bit. You come again with your hot air. Not your hot air, with your alcohol. Your little brush. And for a brush, again, you can use a baby toothbrush from like the dollar store or whatever. You can get a bunch of those. One of these like wannabe painter brushes. This one's clean up pretty good. There we go. It's pretty even. All those look great. And pick for social media. You know what? People are off taking it through the scope. This dang iPhone. Anyways, the balls reform. It's so clean. Nice and pretty. Okay. So now, what we're going to do is we're going to grab our replacement screen this is going to go on, and we're going to put it on there. So now, before we install the new one, I always like to flatten out the balls. So go ahead and put a little bit of Flux. There we go. They are flat. Then you're going to grab your IC. Remember, make sure you're lighting it up right. So for the 11 Pro Max, the square orientation dot is at the bottom. There you go. And what I like to do is I'll put a little bit of Flux on it, on the IC itself. Then I grab some solder wire. Again, 138, 183, whatever you want to use. You're going to hold it, or you're going to line it up, you're going to hold it. You're going to do this thing where you kind of like go over it, wait for stuff to bubble. try again. In this case, I'm gonna try again. What's going on with my tip? My tip is loose. Sorry about that. Try it again. Okay. You want it to like heat up like that. You want to make sure it doesn't. This one is still bumping off. We're gonna have to tint it maybe a little bit more. Line it up. Okay. And then you want to grab. So this one. Your stencil comes with this little things to line it up. You want to find the right one. So this one, nope. Which one is the 11 Pro Max? So this guy? Maybe. I'm gonna say it's this one. There we go. It's this one right here. So now what we're gonna do, we're gonna try and hit it with a little bit of hot air. I set mine at 290. And you're gonna wait for it to settle. Come on. There we go. You see how I moved? There we go. You see how it's moving? Then if you see how if I bump it, it just snaps back? That means to settle properly. So you want to release your hot air. Wait for it to cool down. You remove your stencil. And what I like to do is I clean off that flux, but I use a Q-tip. And you can use a couple. I used a lot of flux, so I might need a couple Q-tips. And then you put the alcohol on the Q-tip, not on the screen. Very important. I'm just gonna pick all that grease off. This is why it's important to use good flux, because a lot of times you guys use the, cheap flux and it just leaves all this residue behind. It's looking good. Okay. We're gonna install and check for the message. I know you guys can't see that well, but we have working touch. And so far, no message or anything. The customer didn't leave a passcode, so I'm gonna have to go old school with the um, Apple Diagnostics. So one moment. All right, so here we go. We or issues, just let us know. And we will see you in Discord and Slack, guys. Have a good one.